So have you guys heard of the CAGED system, and you're maybe slightly confused as to how to apply it? Is it something that you use for chords? Is it something that you use for soloing? Well, in this video we are going to unpack the CAGED system. I'm going to briefly explain what it means, and more importantly I'm going to explain how I use it to make my guitar solos way more melodic in terms of following the chord changes and just making sure that you're choosing the exact right notes that you should be landing on when you're improvising and coming up with really tasteful guitar parts. Now, before we unpack all of this, let me just take a second to welcome anyone who is new to the channel. My name is Harvey. I post weekly content every Tuesday about all things guitar related, so if you are passionate about guitar, then you've come to the right place. You are definitely in safe hands here. I post videos every Tuesday, so make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of when those videos go live, and if you find this lesson helpful, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Anyway, CAGED, what is it all about? So I'm going to start just by giving a brief explanation of how the CAGED system works in terms of how the chords are formed. So if you already know that, then do feel free to skip ahead to this timestamp, and in that section of the video I'll be covering more of the soloing approaches of how I implement CAGED. So if you know that, feel free to skip ahead. But if you are new to the CAGED system, then basically all the CAGED system does is it maps out the various different positions up the fretboard of where you can play your major chords. And if you follow the letters in the word CAGED, then that denotes all of the shapes that you use to play the chord that you choose. So if we start with the key of C, because if it's CAGED, we might as well do it in a way that makes the most sense straight away. So let's start with this open C major chord that we probably all learned when we first started playing guitar. If we then move up to the letter A, well, that is using a C major triad, but using a chord shape that is similar to an A major open chord, and that would be located on the 5th fret. So we've got C, A, then we've got G, so that's taking a G major shape. Then we've got E, and then we've got D, and then back up the octave to C major. So whether you're playing C or an A shape, or a G shape, or an E shape, or a D shape, all of those chords are C major. And this works for every single major chord. So if we were to take the chord of F, so if you play F in this standard position down here, then you'll notice that your F major chord is based off of this E shape. So with this position here, we're actually starting the word CAGED on the E. So then if you follow the letters in the word CAGED, after E comes D, and then you start again. So the next is C, then A, then G, and then back to that E shape, which is up the octave. So the first thing to do is to learn all of your different positions and try and learn them for a couple of different chords. Now let's move on and talk about how to link these chords together in the context of soloing. So for this progression, like the one that I played at the start of this video, we're just going to go for a simple 2-chord change from a C to an F. So in the solo that I played at the start, I was actually playing a C major 7 to an F major 7. But that's just because they actually sound really nice together, but we're going to keep it super simple for this part. But just so you know, that the actual theory side of it does relate to both. It's just obviously with the major 7, you are going to be emphasizing slightly different notes. So when I'm actually soloing and improvising, I am visualizing those caged chord voicings up and down the neck, and I'm trying to target those shapes in my solo just to make sure that when the chord changes, that my playing is emphasizing that change as much as possible. So this, because we are playing over major chords, is going to be based around the major scale predominantly, and if you play the major pentatonic in the various different pentatonic positions, then all of these caged shapes will naturally fall around the notes that you're playing. So if you take a major pentatonic scale, so if we're in the key of C, then obviously you've got C major pentatonic up here, but I actually prefer to play the relative minor position, which is more kind of like a minor pentatonic, which we're probably all more familiar with. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick in this box. And I'm going to play without a backing track, just so you can hear the changes. I mean, I'm going to come back and break down exactly what I've played. So hopefully there you could hear me changing from a C major to an F. So how was I doing that? Well, firstly I started by playing this little interval here. And this is basically playing a C major chord. And it's outlining that C major triad using the A shape from the CAGED system. So when I'm starting that improvisation, I'm really kind of targeting that very comfortable and very familiar C major sound. And then I want to get to an F shape when the F comes around, but I don't want to move too far away from this hand position because that's where I'm choosing to phrase this particular lick. So, knowing the CAGED system, I can then think of all of my inversions of F major, and I can try and find one that is close to that C major. So if we go from F major down here, so we had E, then we had our D shape. Okay, so that D shape is getting pretty close. In fact, if I was to play that D shape over this C shape, you'll notice that there's quite a lot of overlap there. So the main notes that we're going to be targeting are this little F major triad, so we can go. So after the D voicing, you have the C voicing, right? Because when you get to the end of the word caged, you just start again as you move up the neck. So then, for F major, we have this F major triad here, starting with your root on the F note of your A string. And you'll see that again fits quite comfortably in this C major pentatonic. So again, we can start to add these notes into our solo. So a really easy way to incorporate those two chord tones into your solos just by knowing where your major triads and your major chord inversions fall up and down the neck. So then we can move it up to this position. So okay, we're going to do C major to F major again, but we're going to base it out of this C major bar chord shape. So we've got C major here as this E, this kind of E looking triad. And then, if we wanted to get an F that's again similar in terms of it being around this part, then in your CAGED system, you've got your E, your D, we were back at our C, so next is A, and that falls here. So it's basically just your F major kind of bar chord with your root on your A string, and you've got all of your F notes there. So if you were soloing in this part of the neck, in C, you could go. This approach opened a lot of doors for me in terms of soloing, because I was targeting the right chord notes when I was actually improvising, and that made my solos more melodic, and then I just carried on working through that. We can definitely dive into this topic in way more detail. There are countless different ways that you can incorporate these various different inversions into your solos, so if you've enjoyed this and you want to see more lessons in a similar topic, then make sure to give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below, just to let me know, and then I can factor it in to future uploads. And if you do enjoy lesson-based content, then I do have some other videos on my channel. So if you're into the blues and you want to learn some really spicy blues phrasing licks, then I recommend checking out this video, which has a load of cool ideas in it. So thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe, and I will see you all next Tuesday for another video.